जो poor country, so the richer countries in EU are actually trying to outprice the poor countries in EU. So what does that mean? That EU will anyway break down now.
क्रेडिट स्विस ने 60% उनका मार्केट कैप खत्म हो गया है, तो यूरोप का मतलब वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट बैंक्स है, सो फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर डाउन.
When the real crisis actually stares in the face of Europe and European leaders, what happens? Namaste, everyone. This is the Drishtikon show. And in this show, this is our first episode. And with me, I have Kaustubh, God,
नमस्ते.
Namaste. And the idea of this show is not to have a quick and fast kind of a like video or discussion, but a more detailed, more interesting, insightful, informative discussion that goes into topics which are relevant for the youth and for everyone else today, which are contemporary and which inform so that you can make your decisions, you can be more informative, more informed about your the world around you. So we'll go into different topics: geopolitics, religion, politics in India, in US, as well as in the rest of the world, and we'll see how we can take it further. So, Kaustav, namaste. Do you want to introduce yourself?
या हाय, माय नेम इज़ कौस्तुभ और मैं अभी तो सुप्रभात हो रहा है. मैं राजस्थान से हूँ एंड आई थिंक दैट सिंस द डे आई हैव स्टार्टेड रीडिंग दिस दृष्टिकोण, this has become, as I've said to Desh sir many times, my Google. Drishtikon is my Google because in this plethora of information where everything is at your fingertips, it's quite not, because what is at your fingertips is dirt. You cannot find things through it. Whatever you read has some bias. So I think this show is, we might have some political inclination within us, but we are apolitical as far as the show is concerned. क्योंकि देखिए, बात ये है कि जो काला है वो काला रख दिया, जो सफेद है वो सफेद रख दिया. नाउ यू आर टू डिसाइड. बट द प्रॉब्लम विथ पीपल इज बिकॉज एज विलियम शेक्सपियर सेड इट बेस्ट कि भाई, if you learn from nature, nature means the core, the roots of it, you'll learn the best. So Deshar is here to tell you from the nature, from the roots of the thing, because whatever you see on the internet, you find on Instagram or Facebook, you'll find it refined and with bias, and with bias of the person who might have a political inclination towards that topic. So it's never from the root. So what we are going to tell you, or what Deshar is going to tell you, will be from the root, because Drishtikon has been all about that. So with that, I think Deshar should continue.
Sure, thanks. So today's topic is the fall of Europe. So what we really wanted to do was go back and see, what made Europe Europe in terms of its riches and its glory, and like why it became one of the most predominant player in the world. And then like what is it that keeps it going, and why is it that we think that the fall of Europe is imminent? And as we see, that is all playing in front of our eyes itself. So so if we look at the way I've always seen it is that the power never actually goes to the person who has more power or more money. It always goes to the person who knows how to use that money and use the power. And if you look at all the plunder and the loot that happened during the colonial era by Europe collectively and individually by its constituent countries, there was not a single country in Europe, whether it was UK, France, Germany, Belgium, or even the Nordic countries, which had not colonized or benefited from the fruits of a colonial enterprise. So basically, those imperialistic uh, enterprise that happened, and the plunder that happened, that actually made Europe what it is now. That imperial wealth and the plunder is not to that extent. So, and the world is not beholden to the West the way it used to be earlier with the multipolarity going on. So, in that kind of a situation, when the real crisis actually stares in the face of Europe and European leaders, what happens? And it, like the way we have, like if we go through it, go through, what Europe is facing, we'll see that Europe is not just facing peril, it is actually driving fast off the cliff because it has become more masochistic and like trying to hurt itself over time. So so with that we can start off. So cost of uh, so if you look back, like what is it that really strikes you about Europe and its wealth?
Uh, as I look back, I think that there have been a group of nations which, on plunders upon plunders on another nations, have gathered their wealth. And how I like to see is Europe as a fat man with a straw who sucks wealth out of their neighboring nations or their, because you see, still Europe. If we look back, and you are the best to. Before I start, I need to say कि अभी जो मैंने बताया था quote, it was not from Shakespeare, it was from Da Vinci, because we just want
Right.
we want people to know the truth and only the truth. So where was I? So yeah, so Europe, yeah. Um, Still, I don't think the mindset has changed. I don't think the mindset has changed even a bit,
Hmm.
because 5 days ago, I was looking at Ukraine,
Hmm.
and the foreign minister of Ukraine made a statement about how India is making is saving money by buying discounted oil from Russia. And this had me thinking, because this country Ukraine thinks that he has a very strong support of Europe,
Hmm.
and they think that because of this very strong support that they got from Europe, they can say anything about any nation
Hmm.
or from the West. Now here's what wrong, because Europe, as Mr. Jaishankar has very correctly pointed, buys more than what India buys in a year in an afternoon.
Right.
So what, who are they to be the moral police? And they've been the moral police since earliest ages.
Hmm.
So I see this, ये जो ego कीड़ा है यूरोप का, I think it's biting themselves now.
Right.
So yeah.
Because the way I see it is, see, like there was a very interesting book that I read, Law of Civilization and Decay. Now,
Yes.
the first or the second US president was John Adams, and the sixth one was John Quincy Adams. और जॉन
Okay.
क्विंसी एडम का जो ग्रैंडसन था, his name was Brooks Adam, and his father had been the diplomat to UK and to Europe, and he was the one who actually made sure that uh, that Europe did not participate or had any hand, or UK did not have any hand within the Civil War. Now, his son Brooks Adam actually wrote this book, Law of Civilization and Decay, in 1895. He wrote, right? And 1895, when he wrote this book, he said the reason why West had industrial civilization, the industrial revolution, was the Battle of Plassey.
Hmm.
Now, Battle of Plassey happened in 1757. This guy was writing a book sitting in US in 1895. How the heck did he know about Battle of Plassey, which was a very small town and just one battle that happened in India? The reason was because he actually laid it out very clearly. He said the kind of uh, changes that started happening. The way he actually put it was very, very interesting. He said it is not that um, uh, the innovation was actually the power behind the industrial revolution. Printing press तो पहले भी थी.
जी।
प्रिंटिंग तो पहले भी होती थी। स्टीम इंजन को एक्चुअली माइनिंग में भी यूज़ किया जाता था। बट स्टीम इंजन को like steam को as an engine, to do the work was being used earlier. But to use it in terms of railway was something that happened at that time. And printing had a press because there
जी,
was money that came in. If you see right from 1760 onwards, all these innovations started coming out. And he said that, look, the power within the so innovation was like the outlet. The power behind it was the money and the credit that happened, the credit expansion that happened. That credit expansion and the money that came in was actually from Battle of Plassey. And it is amazing to know that 800,000 pounds of gold was sent. And one of the person who actually used that gold was
no, who?
John Rothschild. So if you go to Rothschild archives, you can still
जी,
see that he actually took the gold that came from East India Company. He used that to finance the Battle of Waterloo.
wow,
So so here is one situation where uh, you know like an American historian and a sociologist is talking about how Europe actually got rich and had industrial revolution, and that was because of the Battle of Plassey and the plunder that happened after that. The प्लंडर के बारे में बहुत लोगों ने बहुत कुछ लिखा है. एंड
जी,
ऐसा नहीं है कि स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम दादा भाई नारोजी एंड इवन अर्लियर ऑन, लाइक देयर वाज भास्कर पांडुरंग एंड देन गोविंद विठल कुंटे. उन्होंने भी, और रामकृष्ण विश्वनाथ, उन्होंने भी इसके बारे में बहुत कुछ लिखा था, एंड दे यूज्ड टू कॉल इट द ड्रेन थ्योरी. And
जी,
so if you look at that, and if you look at how they plundered, and like we know now, that study came out, $45 trillion were taken out of India. Now,
yeah,
like that
actually,
was done through, like a lot of different means. And
जी,
like one other thing was, okay, we were paying for our own like imports that were happening within this thing,
yeah,
जो हमें वो करते थे. And all the gold was actually going into British coffers, and the Indians were getting nothing out of that. So if you look at this whole situation, and this was $45 trillion was just India. After that, from Africa, that was going on. ऐसा नहीं है कि अफ्रीका का जो प्लंडर है वो खत्म हो गया. उसका प्लंडर
जी,
खत्म नहीं हुआ, because even today France has a CFA. Like there is something called, like countries are called CFA, countries like which have an agreement on the countries of Africa, like which have like certain kind of a franc, and they have like something called a cooperation agreement. Now, cooperation agreement ये था कि every deal that they do for their natural resources, they have to work with the French government first and the French companies first. That deal will be available to them first. After that, it will be available to anyone else. Because so the thing was, कि आज भी the right to natural resources in those African countries are with France. The the independence was only in name, not in the natural resources and finances.
no, actually, to interrupt you, I
Yeah,
need to say this because while I was reading the Drishtikon newsletter, this was the first time I read about this. So people tuning in, please go and subscribe to the Drishtikon newsletter. But this was the first time.
right.
Yeah, because if you look back, you'll think, ki, yeah, this is Africa. This is a nation which is so rich in natural resources, so rich in mines and so many stuff, and it is supplier for these natural resources all over the world. But still, it is one of the poorest.
Hmm.
And you start to think that where is the money going even today?
Right.
And then you read the Drishtikon newsletter and you go, bingo, there's the money going. So yeah, it's interesting.
Actually, there is मतलब वो कहते हैं, एक there was this study like where I read this
जी,
like figure that for every $1 that goes into Africa, $14 come out. And since like I don't know, like since I think like 1960s to almost now, almost $40 billion have been like no, actually some 165 like $1 billion have been
My
looted from there and like taken out from there. So and the whole like if you go and look at all the the country manners and the cathedrals and all those things, now it is a fact that all those things were actually constructed on the wealth that the British got from India. Whether it was Churchill's home in Kent or it was, Rudyard Kipling's home in East Sussex, they were actually built on the money that came from East India Company. So
God.
जब इनका इतना इतना एम्पायर चल रहा था, it is hard to believe that their wealth was built on actual trade, because there was no actual trade that was going on. What was happening was imperialistic trade. So
Yeah.
they had an advantage over the other countries through imperial power, not through real trade, and that is why they were rich, not because they had an advantage in terms of better products or all that. They did not have better better products. Their cotton was not as good as the Indian cotton. Their silk was not as good as an Indian silk. They broke our entire industry, and they did the same in Africa as well. So that is how they became rich. Now that imperial advantage is not there, and that control is not as pronounced. That is why today it is very very tough for them to actually start building their resources. मैं कई बार सोचता हूँ, if Britain was actually a corporate company,
जी,
then you know so if you look at it, it plundered $45 trillion just from India. Today its
डेफिनिटली,
entire GDP is less than $3 trillion. If it was a corporate company, the British establishment would have gone down as the biggest shareholder wealth destroyer ever in history. Because how can you plunder so much? And this was 45 was just from India, from
या,
Africa, from other Asian countries. If you take all that, that would go well over 150 to $200 trillion. How could such a country come down to just less than $3 trillion? And the reason is because they were never ever so great, like in their own strength. They were great only because they had plundered through imperial power, and that is something that nobody recognizes.
एब्सोल्युटली, एब्सोल्युटली,
So if you take what is happening today, so if you take that, so let's start the discussion around all
जी,
those things. And so what is like going on, and in terms of how so let's start with the uh, क्योंकि आपने यूक्रेन की बात की, तो लेट्स स्टार्ट विद एनर्जी
जी,
क्राइसिस.
बिल्कुल, क्योंकि ये एक ऐसी चीज़ है कि इसी की वजह से इन्हें फटके पड़ रहे हैं,
हाँ.
क्योंकि दे वर लाइक सपोर्टिंग यूक्रेन बट आई
Right.
एम स्टिल नॉट क्लियर व्हाई यू आर सपोर्टिंग यूक्रेन लाइक योर पीपल आर डाइंग दे आर आई मीन विंटर इज़ कमिंग करते-करते विंटर आ चुकी है और
Right.
दे दे हैव नो रोबस्ट सिस्टम टू ब्रिंग गैस टू देयर पीपल.
Right. So the energy crisis is happening, right? So there is no, and ये एनर्जी जो क्राइसिस है, जो उसका जो कॉस्ट है वो एनर्जी की, वो इतनी हाई चली गई है. तो
जी,
the options that they have is oil. They have like gas, which
जी,
again comes from Russia. और
जी,
या वो कर
एब्सोल्युटली.
सकते हैं, वो न्यूक्लियर कर सकते हैं. न्यूक्लियर वो कर नहीं पा रहे because their leaders themselves are not allowing them to have that option, because of all those environment things and principles and all those things. The other option is wind. Wind is like up and down, and right now in at this season the wind has almost come down to zero, so there is no wind power as as well there. Solar power, Now,
जी,
their
हुँ,
aluminum and zinc production has gone down by 50% in the last couple of years. And look, what that means is if you the basic metals used in the solar equipment is actually aluminum and zinc. And if you
एब्सोल्युटली
do
हाँ।
not have that, then you need to get it from China. और चाइना दे नहीं रहा। तो
हाँ,
तो आप करोगे तो करोगे क्या? आपके पास
करोगे
विंड
क्या?
है नहीं, विंड चल नहीं रही आजकल। सोलर के लिए आपके पास रॉ मटेरियल है नहीं। न्यूक्लियर आप करना नहीं चाहते बिकॉज़ आपके प्रिंसिपल्स हैं। और ऑयल एंड गैस आपको रशिया से आ रही है और वहाँ आपको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। वो आपने उनके साथ पहले से ही लड़ाई ले ली है।
लड़ाई
तो
कर ली और सर इसमें एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है
हुँ,
एंड दैट इज़ कि जब इन्होंने रशिया से ये जब से इनका ये डिस्प्यूट चालू हुआ है, आप देखिए बिकॉज़ आई थिंक क्योंकि मैं वापस बोल रहा हूँ द माइंडसेट हैज़ नॉट चेंज्ड और जो आपने पॉइंट आउट किया
हुँ,
बिकॉज़ दे वर नेवर सो ग्रेट,
राइट,
ऑल दे वर जस्ट डिपेंडेंट ऑन अदर्स टू गिव देम थिंग्स एंड दे वर स्टिल वर आई थिंक दिस इज़ माय ओपिनियन बिकॉज़ दे वर लाइक नहीं सऊदी दे देगा भैया तुम्हारी तेल की ज़रूरत नहीं है,
हुँ,
तुम्हारे गैस की ज़रूरत नहीं है। बट हियर इज़ द थिंग सऊदी बिकॉज़ हियर इज़ द प्रॉब्लम मान लीजिए कि सऊदी उतना ही आपको दे देता है बट इट कैन नेवर बी इक्वली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड थ्रू आउट यूरोप क्योंकि नॉर्थ स्ट्रीम जो यानी सबसे बड़ी जो पाइपलाइन है जो रशिया से आती है नॉर्थ स्ट्रीम को बनने में 7 साल लगे अब आपने तो आज ही दंगे कर लिए अब बना लो नॉर्थ स्ट्रीम
पर
कैन
वो
यू
भी उन्होंने तोड़ दी,
इट्स नॉट
लाइक उसको भी
या
ब्लास्ट कर दिया।
ब्लास्ट कर दिया तो नाउ
राइट,
अब इवन इफ यू गेट दैट गैस फ्रॉम सऊदी इवन इफ यू मतलब वैसे तो इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल लेट्स से कि आप ले आए उतनी जितनी आपने सब्सिडी कटवा दी रशिया से तभी यू कैन नॉट डिस्ट्रीब्यूट इक्वली थ्रू आउट यूरोप लाइक you were had that connection with Russia through so many pipelines and this makes me question bhai क्यों you had so much infrastructure built with Russia I mean you had this ties why would you do that to your own people I mean, this is
राइट।
just
सो आई वाज़ थिंकिंग एक्चुअली कि व्हाई इज़ व्हाई इज़ यूरोप एंड यूएस स्पेसिफिकली so
yeah,
anti-Russia right now? Why are they going after Russia because of Ukraine?
जी,
Ukraine में ऐसी क्या खास बात है? I mean,
जी,
they have actually almost come to a point where Russia has already threatened them with a nuclear option, right? Now,
absolutely,
which leader in his or her right mind would actually go to such an extent for a country which has no use? I mean, like no use as in sense कि क्या उसके पास बहुत सारा ऑयल है? नहीं है। क्या क्या है यूक्रेन के पास देने के लिए जिसके लिए वो हार्ड पॉलिटिक के लाइक माइंडसेट में अगर देखा जाए तो वो लाइक उसके पीछे they are ready to actually go through the entire winter like without anything and like it's not as if के वो सिर्फ एनर्जी नहीं है चलो कुछ नहीं होता no
जी,
there is a growing specter of civil unrest that is going on. Strikes are happening right and
जी।
left. This is being called the Christmas of discontent. Right?
Yeah, I read this title in Drishtikon, The
Right.
Christmas of Discontent.
Correct. And so, like, why would they do that? The reason I found was actually their entire, you know, this drama has nothing to do with Ukraine at all. Their
Okay.
fight with Russia is for the Arctic Circle. That is a real thing. It has nothing to do with Ukraine. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Arctic Circle has almost 30% of the national resources in terms of oil and gas. पहले तो वो it was completely covered with ice, right, and
I
snow,
see.
and so nobody really cared. Siberia and all that, nobody really cared about the entire area, and like nobody understood that most of that area is owned actually by Russia. And see, like one of the reasons why China is in such a bad state and such a precarious state is because of its 80% of oil, all its trade actually comes through Strait of Malacca. And Strait of Malacca, on the mouth of Strait of Malacca is Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And that is where India in the last few years has built a naval base. जब वो मोदी जी वहां गए थे ना वो ऐसे फोटो खिंचा रहे
हाँ,
थे यहाँ करके
हाँ, हाँ,
उनका
जी,
मजाक उड़ा थे ये क्या फोटो खिंचाने चले गए
क्या? जी,
वो वहाँ नेवल बेस का सेटअप शुरू करने के लिए गए थे।
बिल जी,
एंड वहाँ अगर नेवल बेस सेटअप हुआ है, दैट मीन्स
जी,
एंड द एंटायर दैट नेकलेस ऑफ डायमंड्स जो
डायमंड नेकलेस या
हाँ जो उन्होंने क्रिएट किया है। नाउ थिंक ऑफ इट लाइक दिस, टुडे इफ इंडिया वांट्स, it can actually control and close off the Strait of Malacca. That means
यस,
80% of oil, all the China's trade can be stopped. That is why they went, they tried to go through Gwadar, through the CPEC. Now, CPEC
जी,
is also in doldrums. It's also gone, and because of the whole thing that happened in Pakistan. सो
जी,
गवादर हो नहीं सकता, मलक्का कभी भी बंद हो सकता है. द अदर वे राउंड फॉर देम is actually through Arctic Circle. Now, Arctic Circle, if that is open, and actually Russia has actually experimented and sent a lot of ships in the last couple of years, uh, 12 months throughout the year through that area. And उनके पास वो है आइस कटर्स हैं जो जाते हैं. Those ice cutting ships can actually open up the entire place for 12 months in a year. And there is no stoppage. Now, this is happening now, but they are saying by 2048, that entire thing will be, the ice will be gone, and like it will like not have any, issues at all. So it'll be a year round, like sea available for them. Now, think of it,
जी,
year round sea available, natural resources which are very very high there, and it's all owned by, or a majority of it is owned by Russia. Do you think
जी,
Putin will let them come anywhere near that place? No, he will own that place. So they, you know so when Biden actually said we want a regime change in Russia, I was like, is he out of his mind? Putin, like, is Putin Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi कि आप उसको ऐसे ही वो कर देंगे? Is
कर देंगे जी,
like, is Russia like Libya or like Iraq? No, it's not. वो सद्दाम हुसैन के बारे में तो बोलते थक गए कि उसके पास वेपन्स ऑफ मास डिस्ट्रक्शन हैं, जो
डिस्ट्र
नहीं थे.
जी,
रशिया के पास
बिल्कुल।
हैं.
हुँ,
रशिया के पास हैं.
मतलब वहाँ जाओगे तो अनार-वनार नहीं मिलेंगे, बिरयानी नहीं मिलेगी तुमको।
हाँ,
यू विल फायर
तो ऐसा नहीं
डब्ल्यूएमडी।
है कि वहाँ गलती हो जाएगी, पता नहीं हम तो आए थे यहाँ ढूँढने के लिए वेपन्स ऑफ मास डिस्ट्रक्शन, यहाँ हमें मिले नहीं. वो
ऐसे
ऐसा
नहीं,
नहीं होगा क्योंकि वहाँ
नहीं
है, वो
होगा।
सबको पता है कि वहाँ है. एंड ही विल यूज इट, लाइक इफ दैट इज व्हाट इट कम्स टू. सो यू हैव टू बी आउट ऑफ योर माइंड, or your fruit that you are going for has to be so huge and so existential for your future that you just don't care,
जी,
because their entire ये इनका जो पूरा प्लान है, that is almost like that we just don't care. Because if you cared, you would know that even before something happens to Russia, your entire Europe will fall down, because स्ट्राइक्स हो रही हैं, प्रोटेस्ट हो रहे हैं, पैसे हैं नहीं.
जी,
और लाइक लगातार कोई ना कोई चीजें हो रही हैं वहां पर, राइट. लाइक इट्स नॉट एज इफ के लाइक एवरीथिंग इज गोइंग हंक्री डोरी वहां पर, right?
जी,
And
हुँ,
the economy is sliding rapidly right now, right? So the industrial the production has come down drastically because of the high energy costs, and the factories are closing down.
जी,
uh, so if the factories are closing down, the industrial production is down, the civil unrest is very high. And they are predicting that if this is a mild winter, actually people don't realize कि जब विंटर होती है, जो डेथ्स हैं, जो नेचुरल डेथ्स, जो
जी,
उनकी जो डेथ्स की रेट जो होता है ड्यूरिंग विंटर इज वेरी हाई, compared to the normal other seasons. Now, if this was a mild winter, there would be 32,000 more deaths over the historical average. But if this was a harsh winter, it would be 335K more. 300 3.5 लाख लोग और मरेंगे. जब ये 3.5 लाख या 2.5 लाख या 2 लाख लोग और मरेंगे बिकॉज ऑफ द कोल्ड, how do you think people will react? Like they would just not care. And I think that is what is going on. uh, like I think you were talking about the CDS issue also happening. So
No,
maybe
I
you can
want
talk
your
about that.
no, I want your opinion on this
Hmm.
actually कि मतलब आपने एक बड़ी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट चीज़ पॉइंट आउट करी एंड इट वाज़ जब जिस वक़्त मैं ये
Hmm.
सीडीएस के बारे में ना आई विल शेयर अ स्क्रीन एक्चुअली।
Hmm.
तो ये सीडीएस के बारे में ना पीपल वर टॉकिंग अबाउट कि भाई सीडीएस करके सीडीएस सीडीएस पर मेरे को सर एक चीज़ ये लगी आपको स्क्रीन दिख रही है?
नहीं, मेरे को दिखाई नहीं देगी। हाँ, आप दिखाई दे।
लोड हो रही है। आप दिख रहा है?
राइट।
So this is actually a chart of um, the Credit Suisse Group, which is I think one of the largest bank in Europe.
राइट।
In Europe.
या।
अब सर इसमें बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है सर कि यू सी अगर आप इसका स्टॉक प्राइस देखें प्लीज बिफोर आई स्टार्ट एनीथिंग मैं भाई कोई शेयर बाजार का दलाल नहीं हूँ एंड आई डोंट प्रमोट स्टॉक मार्केट प्राइस एज इंडिकेटर फॉर इकोनॉमी बट एक बात है कि इट्स 77% डाउन सिंस स्टार्ट ऑफ दिस ईयर 77% the stock price is down.
राइट।
But when I started researching about this, I know कि सर ये बैंक ने पिछले कई सालों से प्रॉफिट जनरेट किया ही नहीं है ईयर ऑन ईयर। तो इस क्वार्टर छोड़ दो, ये साल छोड़ दो, चलो आप कह सकते हो कि द वॉर एंड स्टफ, पर सर दिस प्रॉब्लम इज नॉट बिकॉज ऑफ द वॉर। इट द वॉर क्या कहते हैं उसे हमारे भाषा में कहते हैं आग में आहुति डालना, वो किया है वॉर ने। बट दिस वाज आई डोंट थिंक कि यूरोप का प्रॉब्लम स्टार्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ द वॉर। इट इज मतलब इसका प्रॉब्लम आप देखें तो इट इज यू कैन बैक ट्रैक इट बिफोर द वॉर। ये लोग कब से ही गिरे जा रहे हैं, कब से ही टूटे जा रहे हैं। वॉर तो मेरे को इसलिए बिकॉज आई नीड योर ओपिनियन कि क्यों, व्हाई वुड यू डू दिस? ऑलरेडी यू हैड बीन क्रशिंग इकोनॉमी एंड नाउ यू डिड दिस। और सर एक मैं आपको बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात बताना चाहता हूँ। आप पता है सर ये जब श्रीलंका का क्राइसिस शुरू हुआ था ना सर, ये स्नोबॉल शुरू हुआ था, तो आप पता है सर श्रीलंका का डेट टू जीडीपी कितना था?
नहीं, मुझे याद नहीं है उस समय।
105% था सर
अच्छा।
जब ये शुरू हुआ था। आप पता है सर फ्रांस का आज कितना है?
नहीं।
113%।
वाह।
सो नाउ हियर्स द थिंग एंड और ये फिगर दिसंबर 2021 के हैं। सो दिसंबर 2021 में और अगेन मैं प्रिडिक्ट कुछ भी नहीं कर रहा हूँ, नॉर आई एम सेइंग कि भाई कि क्या, पर दिसंबर 2021 में फ्रांस का डेट टू जीडीपी 113% था, मेरा श्रीलंका 105 था। अब सर अब आपने इसके बीच में ये रशिया से पंगे ले लिए। व्हाट इज हैपनिंग? मतलब ये क्यों? मैं मतलब वो आई विल गो टू द मेजर बैंक्स, पर मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि व्हाई वुड यू डू दैट टू योर ओन कंट्री? व्हाई?
See, that is why I was saying, is Ukraine that important that
जी।
you can risk your entire existence upon? That is why I was saying the fruit that they were trying to go for has to be so substantial, so important, so existential in their eyes कि अभी का कि हम इतना बड़ा दाव लगा लें कि हम आज का जो प्रेजेंट है, like we can actually bet that on a future that they think is going to be even worse.
मुंगेरी लाल के हसीन सपने हैं।
हाँ, because see the thing is उनको ऐसा लगता है in all their wisdom कि they can control almost anything and everyone they want. And they are so confident about that. That is why जब मैं देखता था कि how Biden actually played the whole thing. Now, even before वो आया into like his rule, or जब वो he was just a candidate, he was saying I'll make Saudi Arabia pariah because of Khashoggi जो हुआ, Khashoggi का जो मर्डर हुआ था. Now Saudi Arabia is one of your main oil suppliers. God damn it. And this is what you are trying to say. और उसके बाद आके he started doing the same thing again. जब वो मिलने जा रहा था सऊदी अरेबिया, पहले तो वो सऊदी अरेबिया से मिलने वो जाना नहीं चाहता था. फिर जब जाना चाहता था बिकॉज उसने रशिया से पंगा ले लिया, उसके बाद सऊदी अरेबिया was not even willing to pick up his phone calls. और उसके बाद वो गया यूरोप में, बिफोर ही एक्चुअली वांटेड टू गो टू सऊदी अरेबिया इन जून, वो बोल रहा था. And he said, well, I'm not going there to tell them to increase their oil production. I'm going to tell them like about Khashoggi. Really? Really? मतलब अगर किसी, if killing a journalist or killing people or murdering people was the sole benchmark of morality of an administration, then US has killed far more people for no reason.
For no reason, yeah.
For no reason. So
Yeah.
so moral, so when somebody talks of morality, इसका मतलब ये होता है कि वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं, क्योंकि morality in this whole thing, because there is no such thing as morality in geopolitics. So let's save ourselves from all that nonsense. So let's talk about actual facts. Why was he even doing that? Well, you have to be out of your mind. And then when he went there, he said, I didn't even talk about the increase in oil production. The White House spokesman actually said that. So then what were you doing there? और फिर आके जब उन्होंने कहा कि हम डिक्रीज करेंगे, जो कट करेंगे 200,000 का, तो देन ही वाज लाइक, वो क्यों कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं भाई? इफ like you never told them that, you were more interested in Khashoggi जो पहले हो चुका है, and you
Yeah.
were trying to put them down in front of everyone and in front of वो किंग को तुम humiliate कर रहे हो वहां जाके,
Hmm.
and you expect them to do your bidding. You either have to think that they are your slaves and they cannot do anything to you, or like you really have a death wish. Right? Like otherwise, like what is the thing? Now they are actually like taking the oil and all that out of their own supplies that they have, and the bank that they have, right? But Europe does not have that leverage. यूरोप की प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वो कहाँ जाएंगे, वो नॉर्वे चले जाएंगे. नॉर्वे हैज इंक्रीज द गैस प्राइस सो मच कि नॉर्वे डजंट केयर फॉर देम, इट इज अ ट्रेड. नाउ दैट इज
हाँ,
आल्सो बिग
absolutely.
प्रॉब्लम फॉर देम, कि वो कह रहे हैं वो प्राइस गॉजिंग कर रहे हैं. रियली? मतलब तुम चाहते हो कि वो सस्ते में तुम्हें दे दें चीज जब उसका प्राइस ज्यादा है? व्हाई? सो
तो चिच्चा लग रहा है तुम्हारा, मतलब
हाँ,
क्या बात है?
so they are stuck, and this is something that is happening now. And like you said very correctly, it's not कि यूरोप का जो डिजास्टर है वो वॉर से शुरू हुआ है, या उनके आज के डिसीजन से शुरू हुआ है. उनकी पॉपुलेशन फॉल किए जा रही है एवरी ईयर, and they are bringing in migrants, immigrants from country like Syria, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other Middle Eastern countries. Now, forget about the religious part of it. That is a major like impact, because their entire, socio, like sociological, mindset and the way they work and all those things are going to change. That is a fact. उनके वहाँ जो मोरक्कन्स ने अभी आफ्टर द सेमीफाइनल्स जो वहाँ जाके वो लड़ाई दंगा हुआ फ्रांस में, and after almost every like match this happens. Now all those things are a fact, but let's keep that aside. The fact also is that most of these immigrants that come, almost 1 to 5, like like ratio, they actually take up jobs which are like driver, like like low income.
लो इनकम की।
और वो जो होते हैं, जो जो ईयू के माइग्रेंट्स होते हैं, दे टेक अप द हाई लाइक इनकम वन. एंड these non EU migrants, their population is rising higher, whereas the EU के जो अपने वो हैं लोग, उनकी population is going lower. Their even education में they do not take as much education in terms of high engineering and management and all those things, whereas the EU ones do. So what does that tell you? That the next generation that comes will be in terms of education, their expertise will be here, not here. They won't be innovators, they won't be scientists, they won't be engineers. They would actually be, carpenters, or like drivers, or like even living off of just the doles from the like from the government. So where will the innovation happen? Where will the next generation of Europeans actually do something worthwhile for their own economy? Kya, can this kind of a new the next generation, can they create a new IKEA? Can they create a Mercedes? No, I don't think so. Can they like create like Rafael kind of a thing? No, they can't, because they they would not have been educated in that way, because their focus is not there. They're so so अगर मैं उस तरह से देखूं, falling population is just one thing. Immigrants coming in with a different, like, religious ideological mindset is another. But even more damning is the differential that is going on between education and their expertise in terms of jobs that they're taking, and what impact that will have to on the next generation of Europeans. So when I look at all that, I feel ke Europe is in for a major disaster. वो तो
यस,
ये तो वो चल ही रहे हैं, इस रास्ते पे तो चल ही रहे थे वो.
चल ही रहे हैं जी,
Now they have added the whole energy crisis,
एनर्जी।
the civil unrest, and all those things. Their industries have closed down. पहले ही इंडस्ट्री चली गई थी चाइना, जो बच गई वो भी क्लोज डाउन कर रही है.
जी सर, और सर सिर्फ वो नहीं है, सिर्फ आप देखें दिसंबर 2021 में, दिसंबर, अच्छा देखिए पहली चीज तो क्या है, वेन एवर आई सी दिस इन ऑनलाइन ऑनलाइन आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, लोग कहते हैं अरे तो क्या हुआ, 100% डेप्ट टू जीडीपी तो यूएस भी तो रहा हुआ है। अरे भाई साहब, यूएस एज एक्सेप्शन, यूएस इज एन एक्सेप्शन, यूएस इज एन एक्सेप्शन फॉर एवरीथिंग। वो लोग तो ऊपर बैठे हैं, उनको कुछ नहीं, लाइक यू पॉइंटेड आउट फॉर ये सऊदी अरेबिया वाला एपिसोड, वो कट लेंगे पतली गली से,
नहीं,
they'll give sanctions and they'll be
see the difference between US का debt to GDP ratio and the rest of debt to GDP
डॉलर।
ratio is this, कि उनके पास डॉलर है, which is the main currency of the world. So,
एब्सोल्युटली,
so debt
एब्सोल्युटली
in dollar rises, it doesn't
जी,
impact US. If the
वो
debt
मैं
to GDP
जी,
rises for in dollar for say Pakistan, or
जी,
say for like France, it matters,
जी, इट
because they
मैटर्स,
have to buy the dollar which they can't get.
कांट इट। नहीं सर, पर से देखिए फ्रांस 113%, देन यू हैव ग्रीस एज 193% डेट टू जीडीपी, यू हैव इटली एट 151, मतलब मतलब दिस इज नॉट जस्ट वन, दिस इज फॉलिंग फॉलिंग फॉलिंग। एंड इफ वी टॉक अबाउट, एक तो ये तो लखवा पड़ जाएगा मेरी जुबान को बोलते हुए, पर डुआशे बैंक,
Right.
द लार्जेस्ट बैंक
Right.
in Germany, is at the same track of the Swiss bank.
Right. The
तो
Credit Suisse.
दे आर, जो जी, द क्रेडिट स्विस इज, या
Yeah.
तो द CDS which we were talking about, the credit default swap is, मतलब मैं अगर थोड़ा सिंप्लीफाई करना चाहूँ उसको, वो बस इतना ही है कि जब बैंक वाले लोग ये लोन वोन देते हैं ना, तो उस लोन को इंश्योर करवा लेते हैं,
Right.
बट दैट इंश्योरेंस एट दैट परसेंट, वो जो इंश्योरेंस है उसके बीच का जो गैप है, ऐसे मान लीजिए कि 3% पे उन्होंने करवा दिया, तो अब ये 3% का जो गैप है, इसे क्रेडिट डिफॉल्ट स्वैप का स्प्रेड कहते हैं। जितना ज्यादा ये स्प्रेड बढ़ता जाएगा, उतना ज्यादा उस कंपनी पे लाइबिलिटी बढ़ती जाएगी।
Hmm.
तो ये है। तो अब क्या है कि आप देखिए कि इसी साल क्रेडिट स्विस ने 60% उनका मार्केट कैप खत्म हो गया है।
Hmm.
60%,
Wow.
दिस इज मतलब हम क्या बात कर रहे हैं, ये तो यूरोप का मतलब वन ऑफ द लार्जेस्ट बैंक्स है। सो फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर डाउन, मतलब आपको भाई साहब तेल पानी का कोई व्यवस्था नहीं है आपके पास में, ठीक है, जर्मनी का सबसे बड़ा बैंक खतरे में आने वाला है। एंड दिस इज नॉट फ्रॉम टुडे, ये जो माइंडसेट है, देयर बीन स्कैंडल्स आफ्टर स्कैंडल्स इन द क्रेडिट स्विस। मतलब
Hmm.
अब एक बार को शायद मैं कहीं पढ़ रहा था कि जापान में तो शायद उनका चार्टर भी छीन लिया था शायद। Now it's back.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. Maybe you need to fact check whoever is listening. But
Right.
उनका they had a problem with Japan. So अब मतलब you have this long history of blunders, and today you are down to this. और जब हम जर्मनी की बात करते हैं, इट्स नॉट द डुआशे बैंक, इट्स ऑल्सो सबसे बड़ी जो प्रॉब्लम है कि अब
हुँ,
सर ये जो गैस क्राइसिस वाला जो आपने जो डेथ फिगर जो बताया
हुँ,
सर्दियों वाला, इसके अंदर एक बहुत ज़बरदस्त बात ये थी कि अब देखिए इसमें बात ये है कि जो यूरोप है, हाउ डज़ द यूरोपियन यूनियन फंक्शन इज़ लाइक कि अगर मुझे राजस्थान से बैठे-बैठे दिल्ली में ट्रेड करना है, मैं कर सकता हूँ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है।
हुँ,
बहुत मिनिमल पेपर वर्क, कोई टेंशन नहीं। वैसे ही दे यू कैन डू क्रॉस कंट्री ट्रेड ऑल ओवर यूरोप विदाउट मच, थोड़ा सिंप्लीफाई
राइट,
करें इस बात को तो। तो अब बात ये है कि जर्मनी
हुँ,
ने क्या किया है कि $200 बिलियन की सब्सिडी दे दी है।
अच्छा,
अब ये $200 बिलियन की सब्सिडी का सर बहुत बड़ा पता है यूरोप को नुकसान, मेरे मुताबिक, मैं गलत हो सकता
हुँ,
हूँ, आप एक्सपर्ट हैं, पर मेरे मुताबिक ये है कि मान लीजिए कि आज जितनी भी जर्मन कंपनीज है,
हुँ,
लेट्स से नाउ दे हैव सब्सिडाइज इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, व्हिच इज एंड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम बिकॉज
राइट,
आप 34, आई गेस इस बार €34 पर मेगावाट आवर से आज आप 200 प्लस यूरोस पर मेगावाट आवर पे पहुंच चुके हैं, इफ आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट
हाँ,
होलसेल।
230
तो
240 के आस-पास है।
आप पहुँच चुके हैं जी।
राइट,
अब आपने सब्सिडी दे दी जर्मन कंपनीज़ को। जर्मन कंपनीज़ का जो कॉस्ट है, कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन है, इट इज़ डाउन। पर
राइट,
ये जर्मन कंपनीज़ का जो प्रोडक्ट है, क्योंकि आप क्रॉस बॉर्डर, अब ये जब जर्मन कंपनी फ्रांस को बेचेगी, जर्मन कंपनी ग्रीस को बेचेगी, जर्मन कंपनी इटली को बेचेगी, उनके पास तो इतना पैसा नहीं है जर्मनी जितना कि उन्होंने सब्सिडाइज़, ना ही उन्हें सब्सिडाइज़ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी मिल रही है। तो अब ये अपने आप में सर मुझे लग रहा है कि ये लोग तो सब्सिडी वॉर शुरू कर देंगे। अपने
this
आप
is
में
very important, right? This is very
जी,
important because like exactly like you're saying कि जो poor country, so the richer countries in EU are
जी,
actually trying to outprice the poor countries
एब्सोल्युटली।
in EU. So what does
जी,
that mean? That EU will anyway break down now.
जी,
One, क्योंकि होता क्या है, there is something called a common market, and then there is like this, the European Union की market जो है, and
जी,
so इसमें जो है ये होता है कि आपस में वो एक दूसरे से ट्रेड कर सकते हैं,
कर सकते हैं,
right?
जी।
वो compared to the other countries, and
जी,
so there is no stopping of any so it's not like customs या वो duties नहीं है आपस में, वो नहीं है, but trade and services is also very free. If the trade and services is free, that is great, but if one country is richer and is trying to outprice the other one through all this, it goes against the EU charter itself. And if
जी।
it goes against EU charter, वो जो पुअर जो इटली वाले हैं या वो अदर लाइक पोर्चुगल में भी और पोलैंड, लाइक they'll start saying कि भाई वो हमने क्या गलती की है,
हाँ, वही।
why should we stay with EU like
एब्सोल्युटली।
when there is no rule of law anywhere. So I think like what you are saying is very very right. ये बहुत बहुत important point है ये.
इट विल, क्योंकि अब आपने जो आपका जो कॉस्ट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन है, मान लीजिए कि आपने जो भी प्रोड्यूस किया है, आप
Hmm.
वो तो छोटी कंट्रीज़ को ही बेचोगे, एंड आप उससे उनको सस्ते प्राइस में तो बेचने नहीं वाले,
Right.
क्योंकि दे आर ऑलरेडी आर शॉर्टेज, सो यू विल प्रोबेबली बेनिफिट फ्रॉम इट, उसका उल्टा फ़ायदा उठाएँगे आप। तो अब सर ऐसे में आपको क्या लगता है ये जो छोटी कंट्रीज़ हैं,
Hmm.
व्हाट ऑप्शन डू दे हैव? डू यू थिंक दैट दे विल फॉल फर्स्ट? क्योंकि हाँ, ये बात तो सच है कि जितनी एक देश छोटे हैं उतना ही इनका डेट भी ज़्यादा है इनकी।
Right. So I think like what will happen is, just like Brexit. So
जी,
so they will actually break out of EU because they'll say that the richer countries are no longer following the EU charter or EU rules. So they will
जी,
also try to get out. In fact, there'll be a
हुँ,
lot of force behind that. If there is if there is civil unrest the way it is happening right now, Eurostar rail network, yeah, flights जो हैं, airlines जो हैं, they are stopping, and all these things, if they start happening at a higher rate, then they will be forced to actually move out because they already have an example in Brexit. Then they'll say, okay, you know what, like we will actually start looking at trade deals ourselves. In fact, um, a very high majority of the EU residents are saying that in the next 10 years they are predicting a war between the EU nations themselves. And it's not as if those guys don't know, they know.
Yeah.
So the way I'm seeing it now, and maybe we can kind of like bring it to a close our
And
discussion, which has uh,
yeah.
K, the way I'm looking at it is at it now is that, like Dr. Jayashankar keeps saying, there is a polar world out there. In that multipolar world, we won't see EU as one of the poles at all. We'll see multiple European nations as different poles, बिकॉज वो एक पोल जो है वो वैसे ही टूट जाएगा. क्योंकि देर इज नो देर इज नथिंग आउट देयर टू keep them together, right? So what I see for Europe is that, with the absence of any imperial plunder, access to any imperial plunder now, the way they used to have, and forced to run their ship on their own merit, which they cannot do now, and with the change in their population that is happening, making them far worse than they are today, we will, and the kind of bandwagon that they have gotten onto, thinking that they can control the world the way they want, as they have always done. I think they are actually coming to a point when they will fall off the cliff, which is that things will start, um, like leading to civil wars and civil unrest even more than what is happening, and that there will be an implosion, and uh, that will be very bad news for the world. So this is my analysis, the way I see it.
जी. No, but before I close, I just want
Hmm.
to raise this thing कि हम because I think the beauty of दृष्टिकोण is कि आपने कभी भी जब भी लिखे हैं न्यूज़लेटर्स उसमें कभी भी आपने किसी का माइंड मेकअप करने का कोशिश नहीं किया.
Hmm.
आपने उस चीज़ को लिया और उसका इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस किया. And at the end of it, at the end of every दृष्टिकोण न्यूज़लेटर, you you compile your research and you be like, देख लीजिए आप आपके हिसाब से. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये मैं कह रहा हूँ, ऐसा है ये डेटा कह रहा है.
Hmm.
इसमें सर ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि दिस पॉडकास्ट और दिस एपिसोड दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन आल्सो नीड्स टू बी लाइक दिस कि हम
Right.
लोग का कोई एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन नहीं है बिकॉज वी डोंट नो.
Right.
क्योंकि अब क्योंकि क्योंकि ये इन्फॉर्मेशन आपके लिए ज़रूरी है, ये जानना आपके लिए ज़रूरी है, इसे समझना आपके लिए ज़रूरी है, इसे
Hmm.
साधारण भाषा में एक्यूमुलेट करना आपके लिए ज़रूरी है.
Right.
मगर कुछ चीज़ को प्रिडिक्ट करना तो बहुत मुश्किल है.
Hmm.
जैसे कि क्रेडिट स्विस ने अभी $4.3 बिलियन रेज़ करे हैं. They
Hmm.
might recover. I don't know. They haven't recovered in
Right.
ages, but कह देते हैं हो जाता है. Because we are not that. We are not. क्योंकि सर एक पुस्तक है बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग सी अगर आपने
Hmm.
पढ़ी हो, सुपर फोरकास्टिंग नाम से, फिलिप टैटलॉक की.
हाँ, मैं देखिए.
है ना सर? द
Hmm.
आर्ट एंड साइंस ऑफ
Right.
प्रेडिक्शन. उसके अंदर उन्होंने बड़ी खूबसूरत बात कही है कि ये जितने भी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, ये अपने आप को
Hmm.
बताते हैं मगर वही बात है. सो बिकॉज़ द फर्स्ट स्टेप टू फोरकास्टिंग ही टॉट इज़ कि भाई पहले आपको एक
Hmm.
नैरेटिव को समझना होगा कि
Right.
बाहरी रूप से देखना होगा.
Hmm.
इसलिए जब देश सर ने इसको शुरुआत करी उन्होंने आपको पीछे ले गए यूरोप के.
Hmm.
फिर वी केम टू द मिडल, नाउ वी आर क्लोजिंग. पर बात उतनी सी ही है कि यू नीड टू हैव ऑल दीज़ डेटा पॉइंट्स इन योर हेड टू मेक एन कंक्लूजन.
Right.
एटलीस्ट आपको ये तो पता हो क्योंकि इन द एंड इट्स नॉट अबाउट यूरोप, इट्स आल्सो अबाउट यू
Right.
एंड यू. बिकॉज़ व्हेन यूरोप फॉल्स एंड इफ यूरोप फॉल्स, वी आर नॉट प्रेडिक्टिंग एनीथिंग, तब देयर विल बी एन इमेंस इम्पैक्ट. क्योंकि ये कई सारे देश जो बड़ी-बड़ी सॉफ्ट और हार्ड इन्फ्लुएंस रखते हैं और वो बिखर जाएँगे, वो टूटेंगे, तो सबके ऊपर कुछ ना कुछ असर आएगा.
Hmm.
And our heart goes out to the people and citizens of Europe who are on the streets protesting uh, because winter is very difficult for them.
Right. That's true, and thanks for putting in that good word about Drishtikon. My
अरे सर.
so if you want to actually read the Drishtikon newsletter, you can always go to drishtikon.com. There's one that goes out every Sunday morning, US time, India time. It goes out in the night, And like Costa was saying, you'll find information and details where I don't present my opinion. I just use the data which is out there to join the dots. The rest you can do yourself.